Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to our interview series, Quest. We have with us today Dr. Sahdev Kumar. Namaste, Sahdev ji. Thank you so much for accepting our invite.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Before I begin this interview, I would like to chant a short prayer. Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dr. Sahdev Kumar is a professor emeritus of environmental studies at the University of Waterloo, Canada. He is a nuclear physicist and a historian philosopher of science. He's an author of several books, including The Vision of Kabir, Lotus in the Stone, Dreams and Consciousness, and 7,000 Million Degrees of Freedom. His forthcoming book is Angels and Black Holes, Light, Hope, and Redemption. He now lives in Oregon. Welcome to this Quest interview, Sahdev ji, once again. And to begin this interview, I would like to start with this question, which we usually begin with in all our interviews. So, Sahdev ji, you have a very illustrious background. You have immersed yourself in sciences and at the same time devoted your energies towards poetry and spirituality. Could you please tell us about your life journey, going through these varied experiences and the insights that have come along?
Well, I have lived a long life, as you say. I started in Chandigarh in India, in Punjab, in the city of Patiala. And I studied there, and now I look back and see that the school I went to is, interestingly, was called SDSE High School, which stands for Sanatan Dharam Sanskrit English High School. And I look back and said, this is rather interesting. It's sort of a great synthesis of the East and the West. And then I studied in Mahindra College in Patiala, and then I did my BSc Honours and MSc in Physics from Punjab University in Chandigarh. And all that happened, and Chandigarh was coming up as a new city in the country, and the whole, it was in the 50s, and so a long time ago. But it was a remarkable time, changes. The country was going through big changes. I was always drawn to poetry and things of the mind and the heart. Even though, as a young boy, we don't know exactly what is our calling, what exactly our journey might turn out to be. And so I studied science. I was a good student in the sense I got good marks and so on. So, but that's, you discover. One is always discovering. Life is a discovery. Really, life is a discovery. So I used to be very interested in poetry. I wrote poetry. I recited it. I wanted to learn more about it. And so at the age of 21, I went to Canada to do my PhD. And there it opened a whole new world for me. I tell people when I went there, this is a long time ago, over 55 years ago. So I had never seen a white person.
Right.
Amazing. I had seen films, I had seen paintings, I heard about them, but I had never actually met face-to-face anybody. It was quite remarkable. And I had never met a person from Africa, a black person. And I had never met a Chinese. I had never met a person who was of a Jewish origin or even a Christian origin. So, and then suddenly in Canada, you see people from every part of the world. It was an incredible opening. And so really one thing led to another. And almost in the first week of my stay here, I discovered Western music. I discovered Beethoven Symphony. I didn't know anything about Western music. And so suddenly I feel that, yes, physics is wonderful. I wanted to be a good physicist and make a big name for myself and for the country. But really, the whole new world was opening. And so then I was actually specializing. First, I had to do a master's degree. I did it in radiation physics from Ontario Cancer Institute, which is part of the University of Toronto. And there was learning how to use radiation for the treatment of cancer. I didn't know any of this, really. I was a student in physics. We didn't know anything about biology or physiology or cancer. And suddenly I see in my research work, children who are suffering from cancer and older people and this and that. So it was every step I felt it was opening a new world for me. And it was wonderful. It was just remarkable. I feel indebted to the gods for letting it all happen. So then from there, my PhD was largely of the history and philosophy of science. And I got very interested. My first hero in my life was Albert Einstein.
Right. Wonderful.
He was my hero. And he was, of course, considered the greatest of scientists, but he was also a mystic, truly, and a great pacifist, committed to peace in the world. And all those values I've tried to imbibe in some manner or the other. And so he was a great, great, great human being. And his own life story, how he was kicked out of Germany because he was a Jew, and then how he protested against the making of the use of the atom bomb, and so on and so on. And so these are the things that have, and then I switched really from physics to the whole movement of environmental studies movement was building. What is environment? What is our relationship should be to water, to forest, to soil, and to the trees, and to the sky. And so this environmental movement started in 1970s. And I remember we were the first ones at the University of Waterloo to set up a new department called Department of Man Environment Studies.
Hey.
Yeah, and people used to wonder, what is this man environment studies at that time? And we came from all kinds of backgrounds. People came from geography, from biology, from political science, from law, from physics, because there was no degrees in environmental studies at that time. We were just starting it. And now, as you know, it is all over the world the most important question. Right now, there is a conference going on in Egypt about global warming and what should be done now. I really feel and say it again and again to everybody that we are blessed beings. You see, this earth is a small little speck in the scheme of things, in the huge cosmos. There are apparently billions, hundreds of billions of galaxies now in the world, in the cosmos. We're discovering every day new galaxies. But how is it that this little speck of dirt called Earth has life on it? And we are on it, and other kinds of lives are on it. We may discover, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren may discover some other being somewhere else. But in the meantime, the fact is that we are here, and it needs to be celebrated. Truly. We are very blessed that we are here. The life is here, that we can talk to each other, see each other, think about it, the wonders of the cosmos. So this is something to be celebrated rather than destroying it, rather than be blasé about it or think, oh, what's so special about it? It is very special. It is very unique. So these are the things that have been part of my journey. And so I've been the professor of environmental studies. I focus mostly on environmental ethics. Yeah, what should be our human relationship to nature, to water, to soil, to each other, to living beings, and species were being annihilated or going extinct. So environmental ethics and bioethics, or bioethics, what is the relationship to other beings, biological beings? Ethics is an essential part of philosophy, essential part of all religious traditions, all cultures. What is ethics? How should we relate with each other? What is our dharma? Our dharma is the essential part of life. And it's not just in our country. People, Christians have asked this, Jews have asked it, Muslims have asked everywhere. How we should treat each other. What should be our good family? What is a good country? What are good people? What is virtue? What is sinfulness? And so on. So I feel this whole idea of bioethics, environmental ethics. What should we, how should we live in a manner that life is beautiful here, life is celebratory, life is a recognition of everything that is here, rather than destruction. So, and this is in brief my story.
This is very interesting and enriching to even hear, Sahdev ji. And what I am coming in touch when I'm listening to you is, how you have kept the curiosity alive in and through your life's events and experiences. Like a child who's curious with every step the child is taking. That's what I'm able to come in touch with.
I tell everybody that I was a teacher, a professor for over 40 years. And I say, you cannot be a good teacher unless you're a good student. You got to be a student all your life, full of curiosity, wonder. And that's when others see it in you, younger students see it. They say, oh, that is, he or she is really aware of who we are, where we are. And you see, we as teachers in the universities, we keep getting older as life is like this. But our student group we interact with is almost always the same, between 18 and 25. And then there's, of course, students, PhD students, maybe slightly older in their late 20s or 30s. But the fact is, we keep getting older, but the people we interact with is always young. It's wonderful. It is a blessing. I feel it's a blessing. And I want to stay that like this, that interacting with them and touching their hearts and their souls and their minds and feeling that life is full of curiosity, full of awe and wonder. And really, that's how it should be. There is a beautiful line, if I may share with you, from Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton is considered one of the greatest scientists ever. And he lived 350 years ago. And he died at the age of 85, which is very unusual at that time. And towards the end of his life, he said, I'm like a child wandering on the seashore. Occasionally, I pick up a beautiful pebble or a shell, but the whole ocean of truth lies before me, undiscovered.
Wow.
And remarkable. The whole ocean of truth lies before me, undiscovered. And this is a man who contributed so much to our understanding of the physical world. The law of gravitation, the laws of motion, optics, the discovery of light and calculus and so much contribution, remarkable contributions. And yet feeling that I am a child, I'm like a child. In same way, Einstein, if you go to Washington, D.C., there is a statue of him, and he's towards the end of his life, he said, I know nothing. I know nothing. This is incredible. In a way, that is true. We only know a little bit, and the whole cosmos, the whole wonder of life is so incredibly complex and beautiful that we know only a little bit. So there's no room for arrogance.
Exactly.
No room for it. Hari hai khandu reit mahi. Hari hai khandu reit mahi. Hathi chuni na jaye. Kahe Kabir Guru bhali bujai, chinti hoye ke khai. God's presence is like grains of sugar in a pile of sand. An elephant cannot pick them, but a little ant knows the way. Truth, my friends, is very subtle. Be humble to seek it. Hari hai khandu reit mahi, hathi chuni na jai. Kahe Kabir Guru bhali bujai, chinti hoye ke khai. We need to become a little ant to find grains of sugar. These are great invocations. These are great words of wonder and advice from people who have lived a life of greatness. Kabir, like them, Albert Einstein, Newton, and many others.
Lovely, lovely. As you say, truth is unfathomable, and being this child and humble is what will take us closer in our journey towards
absolutely. We have to keep our hearts and minds open. I had recently, if I may share, my cataract operation done on my eyes.
Hey.
Here near Auroville is a wonderful hospital here called Arvind Eye Hospital. Very good, beautiful eye hospital. And the young person who was performing the operation, she a young girl, 26 or 27, she was from Punjab. And she was happy to see me and talk to her. And then I said to her a little later, I said, you know, I feel sometimes all of us have cataracts on our hearts and souls. And cataract is just a little film that forms on your eye, and then you don't see it, you become blind. And then when you don't see it, you say there is no such thing as sun. There is no light. The sun is an illusion. That is the great tragedy. You think because we are blind, we say the sun is an illusion. And so that is true of our hearts and minds. We have cataracts, we have films of darkness on our hearts and minds. And only if you can begin to remove it, learn to remove it, then incredible wonders happen, truly. That's really to open one's eyes. That is the core secret of spiritual path, open one's eye. An inner eye, the eye of imagination, the third eye, if you like, really. And that has its own cataracts.
Indeed. That's a beautiful analogy. Thank you.
And then who should be the surgeon to conduct that? You know, that surgeon. Who's the guru? Who's the teacher? You know, really. So that is how it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have, also been inspired by Sant Kabir Das ji. You just also shared one of his dohas with us some time back, and you have been transcreating some of his works and publishing them. So could you please share what were the incidents that inspired you to learn more about Kabir ji, and what was the calling? Why have you chosen this journey, Radha?
Good question. Well, Kabir is certainly very, very, very dear to me. I share him, learn more about him, buy him, and share it all over the world. It's actually quite amazing. As a student of Hindi in North India, we all learn about Kabir, Kabir's dohas, couplets especially. And we do this in Punjab and Haryana and Rajasthan and UP and Madhya Pradesh, all Hindi belt of the north. And people learn it, so did I in grade 6 or 7 classes. But the depth of it passes you by because your mind, we are not ready at that time to see the depth. So interestingly, I discovered him in Canada. Okay, I rediscovered him in Canada. So first, as I said, my first guru was Einstein, and through Albert Einstein, I discovered Shri Aurobindo.
Okay.
It's quite amazing. You know, people say, how did... So Shri Aurobindo became almost, never met him, of course. He passed away in 1950. But his presence was always around me in my conversations, in my readings, and in my library, and so on. And so there is a wonderful piece written called one of his books called Mystery of Mysteries. He talks of divine love. And he alludes to a great bhaktas like Kabir.
Okay.
Yes, and he says these are the real people whom God loves, and they are the lovers of divine.
Wow.
And suddenly I was wandering in the high mountains of British Columbia and on the west coast of Canada. And there's a very beautiful part of the country, absolutely gorgeous part of the country. And I had this almost like a mystical vision that I saw Kabir in my vision. And suddenly his dohas kept coming to me. And I said, my God, they came back to me after 25 years. And I had forgotten, I had not said. And then suddenly I said, wow. And I shared it with some of my students. I was teaching in Vancouver at Simon Fraser University. I shared with some of them and some of my colleagues, and they too was taken by its simplicity, by its beauty. You know? And then also Kabir was completely uneducated. He was unlettered. He did not go to school. He did not know how to read Bhagavad Gita or Sanskrit. He was completely unlettered. And that was challenging to people like us who are intellectuals, who are professors, who are academics. So we get challenged. How can a person who cannot read and write be a man of knowledge? But then Kabir challenges us. That was the wonder of it. So that's the wonder of it. Pothi pad jaduva, pandit bhayana koi. There is many a man who's read all the books, but really there is a man of knowledge. To be a man of knowledge, you need to read only one word, and that word is love. पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जगमुआ पंडित भया न कोई, ढाई आखर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित हो. Only one who's learned the dhai akshar, the one word of love, only he is the real man of knowledge. So that's incredible. Incredible for a person to say this to people like me and my kind, scholars, academics, and so on. So it was an eye-opener. Indeed. An eye-opener. And he says it again and again with great boldness. He's a great bold person. Unlike, he's not a timid man. He challenges people, and that's why he was harassed, he was tortured, he's done all kinds of things. He says, I say only what I've seen with my own eyes. You keep quoting the books. I say he's everywhere, but you keep hiding the scriptures. How can I pass across? मैं कहता आंखन की देखी, तू कहता पोथी की लेखी, मैं कहता सिरछा बनहारी, तू राख्यो और छाई दे, तेरा मेरा मिलन कैसे कोई नहीं? I say he's everywhere, but you keep hiding him in the scriptures. And how can I pass across? This is incredible. To open one's eyes, he says, मैं कहता आंखन की देखी. So you wonder what kind of आंखें, what kind of eyes are these? Exactly. These lies in the soul, in the heart, truly, because otherwise we have a cataract on our eyes. Inner eye. We have a cataract on our inner eye. And to learn how to remove it with the help of a teacher, a guru, or a book, or your own reflection, many ways of doing it, many ways. In India, we have had, of course, we have had a huge, long tradition of opening and removing the cataract. And that's what is our wonderful contribution to ourselves and to the world at large. And we must never, never, never forget it. It's an incredible contribution. And to be aware, first be aware that you're blind. Okay? Exactly. That's the great awareness. Unless you know that you don't know, how would you want to know? Okay? Unless you know that you don't know, how would you want to know? So unless you know that you're blind, how would you go to a doctor to say, look, I'm blind, I have cataract, please remove it? Right. Okay? And so really, that is the most amazing discovery. So it was through Sri Aurobindo's this beautiful piece called Mystery of Mysteries that touched me deeply. And then I discovered Kabir, and since then I've shared with him at least 38 to 40 countries in the world. Wow. I call it transcreation because I feel poetry should not be translated. It dies. Okay? Because the original is always a certain rhythm, certain music in it. If you try to do it in another language, it kills it. And the example I give to anybody who questions this, Rabindranath Tagore, when he translated Gitanjali from Bengali into English, he created transcreation. It's not a translation. You see, the original Bengali, Gitanjali, is a poem, it's a song, it's a Gitanjali, it's an assembly of poems, songs. But the English is not poems, not songs. It's a poem, a beautiful poetic prose. Correct. That's how he got the Nobel Prize for it. Nobody read his original Bengali. I don't read Bengali, but I admire Gitanjali in its English transcreation. Correct. And that's how Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, is the most popular poet in the West. Yes. More than any other American poet. He's loved more, written more, and it's translated, transcreated into English, not in a poetic way. It's not a verse written. So that's how I felt. And then over the years, over the last almost 35, 40 years, I've shared it with people from all over the world. All over the world. And I shared it about a few years ago in a black church in USA, in Alabama. There were about 300 people, black people. There was no white person in the church. It's very segregated, very segregated. So once somebody had read my book, so they invited me to present it. And very happy to share. I'm happy to be there. And then I presented for about 40 minutes or so. And I could see people deeply touched by it. Then after this was over, 3 women came to the front of the church dais, and they said, they thanked me. And then one of the women said, "Professor, we feel that Kabir could be our prophet."
Wow.
And I said, "This is wonderful." I said, "He's everybody's prophet and nobody's prophet. He belongs to all great men, visionaries, mystics. They belong to the human race. They don't belong to China or India or Egypt. Of course, we all take pride that he's Indian, but he belongs to all of us, to our humanity, to our spirit, to our soul, to our greater longing of our hearts and souls." And so I was I just came back from Russia. I was there 2 months ago. Presenting Kabir there, and Sri Aurobindo's writings and poems. And there's a big department of Oriental philosophy at the University of Moscow. They had invited me, and I was giving lectures there. And so I shared Kabir, and it was amazing how people respond to it so warmly. You know, it's simple. It speaks in simple language, but such incredible depth. Incredible depth. And so that's how I feel Kabir. My hope is, my wish is very much that I want to take it to many more countries. Many more. What is happening here, I have shared it here in Auroville and or nearby many times. And so many people know me here as almost as Kabir. And then there's a big project going on under my direction. Kabir is being translated in 10 languages.
Wow, wonderful.
Asian and European languages, including Chinese and Hebrew and Esperanto. And there's one Chinese woman here, Indian name is Anandi Zhang. They have translated 150 of his couplets. And wow. And we were planning to go this year to go to China to present in Hindi, English, and Chinese. I'm told there are over 10,000 yoga studios in China.
Wow.
And so the idea was to link with them in various places. Unfortunately, because of COVID, tourism is banned right now in China, but we hope to do it next year. Very much. Incredible response. So such love, saying was such simplicity. And then Anandi, when she first heard me about 4 years ago, she heard me in Uttarakhand, in Nainital. She was sitting in the front row. She didn't know anything about Kabir. And I could see in her eyes how moved she was by it. And then after it was over, she said to me, "Professor, I feel so deeply touched. I want to translate him."
Wow.
And then she said, there is a long tradition in China of writing couplets. So even that tradition continues to this day. So you write the first line and the other person will try to write the second line. And in a competition. And I said, wow, amazing. So couplet writing in different languages is very interesting, like sonnets. Like, the whole idea of what captures the music and the meaning in few words. It's like a mathematical equation.
True.
Like E equals MC squared, simple little equation. But in order to get there, how much time and work has gone into it. Same is true of Kabir's dohas. They seem simple, but in order to get to that wisdom and that depth, it's a lifetime's work, truly. A lifetime's work. Yeah. So that's
this is very, very heartening to know this, Professor, about your work, and it's it's acknowledgement and appreciation worldwide. And I think this is testimony to the fact that love transcends all differences. It's universal.
Absolutely. Really, this is an incredible discovery. And being here in Auroville, there are people from 62 countries.
Wow.
About 3,000 people from 62 countries. It's remarkable, and it's really every time I go for a cup of coffee, there is a place here open, a coffee place, and it's under the trees. I sit there, invariably somebody stops by for 20 minutes, 30 minutes conversation. They're from Germany, they're from Iran, they're from Israel, They're from Canada, USA, and Italy, and Russia, and so on. And amazing people. And everyone, in my experience, everyone is a remarkable person, because they would not be here unless there's something going on in their hearts and minds. You know, some question why, what is good life? What is the meaning of life? What is fulfilling life? And so on. So I feel each one of them brings that special quality to it. And one thing I keep discovering and sharing, that yes, we have differences, you know, and of course we have Indian culture, Chinese culture, different foods, different clothes, different skin colors, and different historical backgrounds. But what is common between us is far more important.
True.
Far more important. What is our humanity? What is our longings, spiritual longings? What is our scientific longings? And so on. These are incredible. Why are so many scientists admire each other? They don't care which country you're from. You know, Albert Einstein was given refuge in USA. He didn't speak English. He was kicked out of Germany. He was the most famous scientist of his times. And then he's kicked out because he's a Jew. He's kicked out by Hitler. And so he goes and he's given shelter or a welcome to USA. And he is in the Institute of Advanced Studies in Princeton. And he didn't speak much English, but that didn't matter. People's mathematics is the same for everybody.
True.
And by itself. So that itself is also wonderful, that we discover the beauty and the grandeur of the divine and mathematics and science and the things of the spirit and heart. And these are our universal messages. Really, we belong to any one country or culture. Of course, we all feel proud. They will say, yes, it is from us. But we shouldn't say that it is only excessively others. You know, yeah, very important. And so that's how I feel. I feel a sense of celebration, and really more and more people. I discovered Russia. I was there for the first time. And what again? Of course, there are differences of all cultural differences. So. But what I discovered so many times, the deeper humanity, divinity, this pulse and impulse and desires and longings, similar, say so similar, really. And that is the wonder when you connect at that level, that's the real connection. That's the real connection.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, could you share a little bit of your perspectives on what made Sant Kabir ji so relevant and something that people were able to connect with? What made him so unique, according to you?
Well, yes, a good question, very good question. Because you see, it's over 500 years ago that he was alive. And in my readings and observations, I don't think any other person in the country is so loved and admired and quoted. And more, every year there are 4 or 5 Kabir festivals. In Varanasi, in Bombay. I was invited to one in Baroda 2 days ago, in November 12th. And because he's there way back, but his message is eternal. And it's fresh. And it is bold. It is bold. He does not brook any stupidities and hypocrisies. He exposes hypocrisies. Really, that is greatness. So young people like you, like others who are suspicious of religious orthodoxies and so, they say, he has the courage to say it. And so I have seen Marxists admiring him. Say, he speaks about equality, about social justice, and he says it in your face. It's unchildly. Moonde Mudai Haribilai. He says by shape, if you see, he lived in Varanasi, and there are a lot of pundits there, and a lot of all around him. So a lot of people shave their heads to look holy, or they grow beard, they think that's what makes him holy. So he says, Moonde Mudai Haribilai. If by shaving your head, you could see the face of God, how easy it would be. So look at a sheep. He says, look at a sheep, how often it is shown, how far from heaven it is. Mudai Harimudai. Are sabkoi laye mudai. Bar ke mudde, bheld na pe kunt jaye. Not go to heaven just because it's shown and be so often. So that's incredible. To have somebody saying this in Varanasi, 500. So the Brahmins and the Orthodox Hindus, they tormented him. All kinds of awful things to him. And same way, there are only two major religions of the world at that time in India, the Muslims. He said the same thing to the Muslim. That's not where the real religion is. Not in Kaaba, it's not in Varanasi, it's in your heart and soul. Kankar Pathar Jodi ki Masjid Lahi Chunai. You say, they look at them. They put all the stones and bricks together and made into a beautiful mosque. And there on the top, the mullah shouts the name of God. You think God is deaf? So that's one thing. And then he says, Takar Panthar Jodi ke Masjid Lahi Chunai. Taan chadhiya mullah bhang de. Kya behra hua khudai? Kya khuda behra hai? Is he deaf? Why do you shout? So you see, that's what makes him so loving. Everybody loves him for this. Loves him. And since he's a potter, he was a potter. He was a potter all his life. He was a weaver. He was a weaver. And he was a weaver all his life. He did not become a full-time ascetic. He was still, I don't know how much weaving he did or how much weaving. But more and more people coming to him and seeing him weaving. And then he said, God is a weaver. He's weaving the whole universe. Wow. That's how I spoke. God is a weaver. He's weaving the whole universe. So his allusions are all simple, very simple. They're from the pottery, from soil, from forest, from water, from this. My name of my other book that is coming out on Kabir is called Ocean in a Drop. Ocean in a Drop, wow. There are 3 couplets by him, very beautiful couplets. And they're really remarkable. So much philosophy is there, so much holographic images are there. And he says, Herat he sakhi raha Kabir hai rai. Boond samani samad mein abkat heri jai. He says, I looked for him everywhere, but to no avail. Why? Because when a drop becomes part of the ocean, who can say what is what? What? Right. And then the second one, he says, I looked for him everywhere, but to no avail. Why? Because when the ocean becomes part of the drop, who can say what is what? And then the third one is very beautiful. He says, how a drop becomes part of the ocean, that everybody understands. But how ocean becomes part of the drop, only a rare man can comprehend. He sakhi raha Kabir hai rai. Boond samani samad mein abkat heri jai. Then herat he sakhi raha Kabir hai rai. Samad samana boond mein abkat hera jai. Boond samana samad mein are jaane sab koi. So everybody understands. How boond samana samad mein jaane sab koi. Samad samana boond mein are pooche pirla koi. Only a rare man can comprehend how the ocean, how that is contained in a drop. Wow. Incredible. See, that's the great vision, ocean in a drop. And you have the same lines, beautiful line by the great 18th century mystic poet William Blake in England, to see the world in a grain of sand and have a flower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand and eternity in another. So these are, in a way, similar expressions of mystical vision, of thoughts. They come from many lands, but of course, India, I feel in my reading, understanding, has far more in many ways, because we have encouraged it, we accepted it, we felt this is the real essence of life. And so unfortunately, that tradition continues. That visionary, that's why people like Sri Aurobindo, who are highly educated in England and so on, but that visionary spirit make you alive. And just 90 kilometers from where we are, Sri Raman Maharishi is there. Yes. Okay? Just, he hardly said anything in his life. He hardly spoke more than a few hundred words, 1,000 words. Sri Aurobindo wrote thousands of words. Very different. Yet we love and aspire and feel inspired by both of them. And the Krishnamurti was there in Chennai, just to 150 kilometers. 3 great men. Really think of it. Inspiring. And then you have Sat Sai Baba is there. So many things. So in a way, we feel whatever touches us, in whatever manner we feel touched, whatever touches our heart and soul, we feel it's absolutely fine. Go that way. Nobody's forcing you. It is our own life. That is how to make it beautiful, how to make it fulfilling. Truly, that's how we should be aware. It is not selfishness to say it is our own life. It is my swadharma. It is calling. And therefore, to say that is what I would live simply, or that's what I choose, because that's what's more important for me. Or I'll do this because that's more important. And I say to myself, you asked me earlier, the fact is I chose that I don't want to be a specialist in science or nuclear physics. I tell everybody I'm a specialist in being a generalist. Because I find there's so many other things that touched me in poetry and architecture and history of art. And then sharing it. And I studied dreams. My book on Lotus in the Dream, Lotus in the Stone is about dreams and consciousness. And I give workshops on it. And so this for me was possible because then I said, I don't want to feel like I'm the greatest nuclear physicist or scientist. I'm okay, whatever I did. But that's not all there is to life for me. Maybe for some people, maybe, but not for me. And that's my decision. And a society, good society, healthy society, permits you to be that. Okay, I may not be honored by physics department people to be given an award, but that's okay. But I feel that's what I've chosen to be. And in a way, this must be that challenge must be for all of us. Because life, you live 70 years or 80 years, people are living longer and longer everywhere in the world. But whatever it is, the important thing is to live fully.
True.
To live fully. I say, this is my mantra, I say everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
Correct.
Okay? Everything that is biological, that is animated, so that is a death. It could be one day, it could be 100 years, it could be 200 years. But that is the law of nature. Everything that lives dies, but not everything lives fully. And humans don't live fully. They spend so much time in small things, petty things. If you make the petty things important, the important things become unimportant.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a great tragedy.
True.
There's a lovely line in Punjabi. I don't know if you understand Punjabi or not. Little bit. Oh, puchde nahi, tera parivar kinna hai? They ask how big is your family, and then they say how big is your empire, and then how big is your business. Oh, puchde nahi, tera parivar kinna hai? Oh, puchde nahi, tera darbar kinna hai? Oh, puchde nahi, tera vyapar kinna hai? Main puchda haan, tera khuda naal pyar kinna hai? I ask you how much love you have for God. Okay? This is Guru Nanak. Okay? मैं पूछता हूँ तेरा रब नाल प्यार कितना है? I ask you how much love you have for God, because in a way that will give you a direction. And it's not to be pushed on anybody. Everybody should choose on their own, because when it comes from the heart, then it's real longing, real seeking. Otherwise, you get talked into it, and then it becomes undeniable. And then it's politics. It's unnatural because you do it for power rather than real seeking. So that's how I see it important. That's really human journey to learn what is my swadharma. Yeah, dharma, of course, but it's my duty towards each other, to the country, to this and that and that and that. But what is my duty to myself? Okay? What is my duty? And then am I abiding by that duty? And then who's to judge it? Who's to judge it? I'm the judge in it. Okay? Because I die, and then I say, Manav Janam Durlabh hai, hoya na baar baar. Kabir says again and again. That's what makes him so. He says he does not talk about reincarnation and this and that. He said this Manav Janam Durlabh hai. Life is a rare gift. It doesn't happen again and again. A fruit fallen from the branch cannot be attached to the branch again. Manav Janam Durlabh hai. Vayana Barambar. It's incredible. So he does not go into a philosophical debate. Is there reincarnation? Is there? He said, I don't know. But this is it here. And I want to live fully. I want to. This is the great existential response. Existential philosophy is saying, this is it here. How my becoming and being become together. Becoming and being, the essence and being. You know, Sartre wrote a big book called Being and Nothingness. 500 pages long. 650 pages. Being and nothingness. What is being? And what is nothingness? And what is becoming? These are what is a sense, what is Sat Chit Ananda. Really, all these things are explored, reflected upon, shared, explored more, and then bring to one's own life and say, how do they, what sense do they make to my life? This is not ego, this is a real realization. So I tell many younger people, other people, we not learn to move from self-centeredness to the center of the self.
Wow.
Capital S. Self. We move from self-centeredness, small thing, ego, small petty little things that consume us, and then we become unbearable, you're stingy, you're greedy, you're full of avarice, self-centeredness. So from moving from self-centeredness to the center of the self, to the center of the great self.
Incredible.
Yeah. So really and it is for all of us, truly. It is a human journey. That is our needs, of course, they are human everyday needs, survival, food, and relationships, and so on. They're all part of life. But there are also sometimes we see a greater, grander journey.
True.
And I feel very fortunate. I feel blessed that I have come here to Auroville, to be here in the last years of my life, and sharing it with people and learning from them, sharing with them, and rejoicing. There's so much music here, so much poetry, conversations, and nobody's thirsting anything. There are people here who have Jewish background, who are Muslim background, Hindu, and there are many who have rejected religion. They say, that's not, I'm an atheist, but I'm a spiritual person. I want to see the drama of the spirit. Yeah, that's wonderful. And nobody's here to convert you, say you must become this. Therefore, that is one beautiful thing about Hinduism, I feel. Convert, we don't want to convert. Say, if this is your path, go. That's wonderful. Really. And I hope we keep it that way. We say, yes, yeah, you're welcome. You whatever background, whatever draws you here, whatever pulls you, whatever is your spiritual calling or longing, you're welcome. And not to be pushed around, or thrown around. And saying, only this, only you have to do this, only then we'll accept you. No, that's wrong. You know, that's thrusting our idea, our notion of what is spiritual or sacred to the other. And to give other freedom to choose, that itself is a great spiritual step.
Absolutely.
Very important. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. When you shared about how Kabirji was a weaver, I got reminded of the Tamil saint poet Thiruvalluvar.
Yes, yes.
His work on he also wrote the couplets format and poems with deep philosophy. To this day, the children in Tamil Nadu learn, which is part of their syllabus.
So,
yeah. That leads me to the question where I read an article of yours suggesting how it is important to include Kabir in children's education. So could you share how it would help a child who is having an exposure to the couplets of Kabirji And what is the approach that the schools could adapt to take it forward?
Well, I think it would be wonderful for a kind of children to learn. Actually, for people of the North, has to learn about great Tamil poets and other poets. That is the real Indian unity of the country, respecting each other. And I had never lived in the South before. This is the first time I'm coming to, and I'm discovering so many incredible, beautiful things here. So I find there are some people here interested in translating Kabir into Tamil. So I'll see if we can make it possible. And then presenting it, sharing it like I do in English. And people say, oh, that's very nice, very simple. That's very nice. And then it begins to say he's not a stranger. He's an Indian from North India. He speaks to all of us.
True.
So if more and more exposure like this, they are possible for children in schools and colleges. And there is one very big place here called Yatra Culture and Arts Foundation. It's a Tamil group. They teach music and dancing. I'm one of the patrons. I help them in many ways. And yesterday there was a Children's Day.
Right.
So they were presenting dance and Kabir. So they asked me to present some Kabir there. So 10 minutes I presented Kabir, and then I translated in English, and the person, Yatra is his name, he translated in Tamil, and kids were happy to hear about it. They're happy to know that, and then for them to know that a person from Punjab is here, you see.
Indeed.
I asked them how many people know about Patiala, about Chandigarh, and would you like to go there one day? Yes. So long we don't push anybody to things, do it with a sense of freedom and respect. And then people say, of course I want to learn more about my country. I want to go here, there, maybe to study, maybe to visit, maybe do a business or whatever, or do some yatra. In Uttarakhand, there are so many places of pilgrimage, of Hindu pilgrimage. Badrinath, Kedarnath, Haridwar, Rishikesh, they're all part of Uttarakhand. And so people, good. So we are trying to see, I'm trying to find somebody who has a good poetic spirit for, and then has a good attraction to Kabir and translate it into Tamil. We try to see Tamil, Kannada, so that it reaches more people. I think it will be very good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a wonderful experience for me, in this conversation with you, Sahdevji. I'm really, really grateful to have received this opportunity to spend this time with you and to listen to you. I am really inspired now to pick up works of Sant Kabir and to start reading them.
Yes.
I think I should start with your book.
Yes, you're most welcome. It's called The Vision of Kabir, and the subtitle is called The Love Poems, The Love Songs of 15th century Weaver sage. Right. That's the essence of it, divine love.
Right.
Is it in a very beautiful, simple ways. Lali lalaki, jita dekho tit lal, lali dekhan main bhi ho gayi lal. The light of my beloved is spread everywhere. When I went searching for it, I too became part of that light.
Wow.
Lali mere lal ki, jita dekho tit lal, lali dekhan main bhi ho gayi lal. And he does it again and again. Manaka pherat yubhaya, gayana manaka pher. This word manaka is very beautiful. It means beads. It's something belonging to the heart. There's two words in Hindi, but he used it 5 times with a different meaning. The word pher means moving the beads, and also means wrinkles in the heart. Somebody is untrustworthy. So this man has pher in his heart. Don't trust him.
Right.
Beautiful, incredible piece. For years you've been moving the beads in your hand, yet nothing has moved in your heart. Oh, my friend, leave aside the beads. Open your hands. Let the heart turn.
Wow.
That's the beauty of it, Kabir. So he sings of simplicity in a way, and Ankanaki Karunkoti, see, for him is divine number. I'll make my eyes into bridal chamber. Bridal chamber. Yeah? He is having I'll make my eyes into bridal chamber. In the pupil of my eye, I'll lay the bridal bed. I'll use my eyelashes like silken curtains. And there I'll endear my beloved.
Wow.
Ankanaki Karunkotri, Putli Palang Vicham. Palakanaki Chikadari Piakule Vicham. I'll endear my beloved. Ankanaki Karunkotri, I'll make my eyes into bridal chamber. In the pupil of my eye, I'll lay the bridal bed. I'll use my eyelashes like silken curtains, and there I'll endear my beloved. So these are love poems. These sings of love, divine love. And so he sees it just.
Enthralling.
Lootna hai to lootla Rama nama ki loot. Oh, rejoice and rejoice in this divine love. Rejoice. He's a singer. He says, I'm drunk with this.
Intoxication, yeah.
He says that kind of things. He says intoxication that lasts forever.
Ever.
It doesn't go away after a day or two.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's wonderful to see that. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Thank you so much, Sahdev. I think it was a really enthralling conversation with you, and definitely it would be for our viewers as well. With that, on behalf of Indica Moksha, I would like to extend our gratitude for accepting to do this interview with us. Thank you so much.